kid. I was always thinking about and building things or asking questions why. Why is a store like this? Why is, why are things around in my life? What creates those things? And if you have an inquisitive mind, if you have a thought process that starts to think about why are things the way they are, and if you don't take them for granted, then you are a designer. So I would venture to say that you're all designers because you're all questioning things right now in your lives, and that's what I did. I grew up with what was called Lincoln Logs, which were logged. Do you know Lincoln Logs?
Yes.
All right, so I grew up with Lincoln Logs, and I built things all the time. And I was always building things. And I always knew that I wanted to be a designer. So I'm lucky, because from an early age, I knew I wanted to be in this field. And then Porsche wanted me to tell the story really quick, because I always think it's important about defining your passion in life. And when I was your age, I was a junior in high school, and my dad owned a dairy store in New York. And my dad contracted cancer. And he owned a store. It was my great-grandfather's store, and then my grandfather's store, and then my father's store. So this was a store that was in my family my whole life, including all to my great-grandfather who came in here in the U.S. from Russia. And my dad got really ill, and I had a passion to be an architect. I didn't want to run a dairy store. And at that point, when he was really ill, he said to me, I want you to follow your passion. I want you to take what you learn, what you love to do, and go out in the world and go seek your goals and aspirations. So we sold the store right before he passed away. And Porsche always says to me, what drives me every day is my father said to me right before he was going to pass away, he said, follow your dream, follow your passion, go for it, and you can accomplish anything you want in life. And this was right at your age, right where you are right now, right around where you are, was when he said this to me. And ever since in my life, I'm now 55 years old, in my life, I always think back to what my dad's inspiration was about following your dreams, following your passions. So it's really cool. So anyway, we put this presentation together. I don't know if there's a clicker, Jim, or not.
Wait a minute, that's it with you? No. I have an important question. Were you a good student?
One of these. There's always a heckler in the crowd.
Really bad when it's your wife.
All right, so now she's really going to get me going.
Yeah, come on.
The reality is, in high school, up until when I told you about my dad, I wasn't a very good student. In fact, I was probably a D student.
What?
And
That's news.
A C student, a B student, what is it?
The truth?
I wasn't a good student. And, but I always knew that I loved building things and I loved design. And I took one class in high school that I loved. Do they have mechanical drawing, any kind of drawing classes in school at all?
AutoCAD.
Yeah.
Computer design?
Yeah.
It's media design. It's similar. So I was in a class like that, and all of a sudden, as I was getting C's and D's, even though Porsche doesn't believe it, all of a sudden I was getting an A in this class, and I realized that I loved this class of drawing and sketching and creating ideas and design thinking, about always asking questions about the way things are put together. And so from there, I graduated from high school. I went to college and I got straight A's because I went to a design school and I loved design. I knew I loved, was passionate about creating things, and that's what I'm about to show you. Porsche lets me. You gonna ask any more questions?
No, I'm afraid of the answers.
Is there a clicker?
No clicker, you're clickerless.
What Porsche asked me to talk to you a little bit about tonight is about global trends in design of communities. And in fact, what Jim and I are going to do after this, and John and Carol and a bunch of people, is we're going to talk about your community and what the pictures are on the wall that you see. It's actually pictures of Manhattan Beach. So as I'm going through this presentation, think about the trends and the issues that I bring up in this presentation of what I'm working on around the world right now, and apply it to your city, how you can create your future in this city. Think about growing up in the city and all the different places that you've been and why they're like that and why they can be better than they are today. And so I put the slide up on the wall because I think it's important, because it's something that we talk about all the time, and it's something that probably you think about. It's this whole idea of design thinking. The world is about design thinking. If you think about it, it's the question, you question what's conventional wisdom. Everything that's a given is changing today in our world, and if you question it, you can create new and positive designs in the world. Observe how people are actually using the space. Look how people are using this room right now. and observe how things are being done. Define problems in different ways. I'm going to show you a lot of different projects and how it defines the world in a different way. It defines the cities we're in, it defines how we live, it defines how we work, it defines how we play. And we're going to talk about that a little later too. And imagine solutions. Imagine the solution to this room that would have been better if they would have designed it differently than it is today, right? If it wasn't a long room and I have to walk from side to side. If I were designing the perfect room, it would have been more square. It wouldn't have been like this room that we're sitting in today. So imagine how your solutions, how you can change the world you're in. I'll give you an example. My firm designs all the Apple stores that you go into. So we worked with Steve Jobs and we came up with the prototype for the new Apple stores. But you think that that's just the way it came out and that's the way it is? We did hundreds of prototypes to develop how a customer, how you walk up to a product and feel a product and go through it. How you go up to an iPad or an iPhone and see the way it's feeling and touching. It's all thought through. What you think is automatic in the spaces that you're in are not automatic at all. Every piece of it is thought through design thinking, through the way you think about the world. So I'm going to talk quickly about global trends. I'm going to do this very quickly because it's a long presentation. I'm going to talk about three things. Globalization. Every one of you is on Facebook, right? Are you talking to any people in other countries right now? You are, aren't you? You know that 5 years ago you couldn't do that? It's pretty incredible that what the big trend right now is that the world is flat. What we call the world is flat. I'm blocking someone in the room, so I'll step over here. The world is flat, and what that means is technology is exploding, that our world is becoming one, that you can literally talk to people around the globe. We have offices now in 43 cities around the world, constantly talking to each other. It's a 24/7 environment, talking about exchanging ideas and exchanging information. In fact, what I like to point out is that everything in this room actually came from a different place around the world. Do you know that every piece of clothing you're wearing, if you look at the labels really carefully, I venture to say 95% of the clothes that you have on right now were made in China. Did you know that? 95%. They were probably designed in the US or Italy, but where they were made, 95% of the time, except for Carol buying Italian high-end stuff, 95% of the time, 95, I promise you that the clothes you're wearing, just think about that. All the clothes that you're wearing came from China. And this carpet probably came from Pakistan. The lighting tubes came from the Philippines. This iPhone that I have, who has a phone?
Oh, I just looked at hers. Yeah.
Your phone? That phone was assembled in China. The parts came from India. It was manufactured around the world. So everything, the fabrics that you're seeing on this chair came from a different country. But think how profound that is in the world today that we live in. That it's one globe that we're living in together. And that your future, we can design our planet. Think of the power that gives you. You can design your future. That it's not just a given the way this room's configured or the way the Apple iPhone is. Steve Jobs conceived of a future technology that now we're living with. And what is the future technology that you're going to live with in the future? So, I wanted to talk briefly about this slide that talks about population growth. And you have to understand it's profound in what you live in today.
How old are they going to be in 2050?
How old are you going to be? You're probably 16 now, 17? So in 2050 you're going to be
Come on, you
30 years.
Please.
My age. You'll be my age.
38 years from 38 years from now.
Yeah, be my age, 55.
Yeah.
So when you're my age and 55, guess what? India is going to be the largest country in the world. And you can see the incredible population growth that's going on. You don't have a clicker, huh?
I don't have a clicker, sorry.
There's one right here. Here it is. Does it work?
Hey, you can do that then, right?
It works. I got it.
All right.
I'm going to go buy this one. So, and the other big major trend that's going on right now is that people are moving from suburbia to cities. So in China, every year, 15 million people, that's twice the size of Los Angeles, are moving to cities. That's going to be profound in your futures about how people live. I'm going to show you what that means. In fact, there's cities like in China, like Shanghai, that are twice the size of Los Angeles. And think about that. How big LA is or New York is. twice the size. These cities are immense in China and affecting us every day. And the sustainability, how many watched the video that Porsche told you to watch? If you really watched it.
Wow.
Well, what was key is that for the first time in cities, more people live in cities than do not. This is a huge trend that's going on. And how many know that in the first time in human population, there's a scarcity of water, which is huge right now for you, all of you, when you see all the bottled water and you're sitting around here. And for the first time, there's a trade-off of whether we should use land for growing food or growing fuel for our airplanes and so forth. And for you, we have now reached peak oil, meaning that there's no more oil in the world. And what are we going to do about it so we can sustain the Earth? And the last 6 years were the hottest years ever in the world. This is profound in your world that you live in. The 6 hottest years ever in the history of the planet were the last 6 years. And this chart shows that the global emissions around the world, the world you live in with all our automobiles, you can see how much is going up right now. So what are you going to do to change it? What do you think you can do to change it? What can we do to change all this that's going on? It's called sustainability. In fact, buildings, you can see that buildings emit 40% of the energy that's used. And so we can control the amount of energy used in buildings or transportation or industry. I won't read this slide, but do you know that every day, because of all the pollution that's created in China, that 25% of the bad air that we're breathing here comes from China? The winds are blowing it here every day. Pretty profound, huh? And so if we use sustainable design, it will help. Sustainable design will help in better school performance, increased productivity in retail, and so forth. That's why sustainability is so important. So now I'm going to talk about the principles that you're going to use in Manhattan Beach to make Manhattan Beach a better place. Principles like the power of place, creating places that understand the history and culture. Think about the history and culture of Manhattan Beach.
Is that Shanghai?
Yeah, well, this is a master plan that we're doing in Shanghai. And in fact, right now we're designing the second tallest building in the world. This is a vertical city. It's 160 stories tall. It's being built in Shanghai right now. And what it is you can live there, you can work there, there's recreation there, there's windmills at the top that are driving energy, so it's self-sustaining. So it's a self-sustaining building and a self-sustaining city. Right now it's under construction. It's about up to here right now. So if you think about it, the World Trade Center that went down was about 101 stories. This is 152 stories tall, a vertical city. This is what's happening in the future because people are going back to the cities and living in the cities and growing. Please.
How fast does the wind have to be going at the top for the wind turbines to make enough energy to sustain this building?
About 30 miles per hour. And because the building's so tall, there's always winds up there that are going that fast. And so I'm showing you the height of that building. It's 150 stories. To give you a sense of scale, the tallest building in LA, which is Library Tower, is about 82 stories. This is twice the height of Library Tower in scale. Here you can see the windmills that are at the top of the building. And we used it, you talk about the culture, right? How it designs culture, right? So this wanted to be the symbol of China. So what they call it is the dragon's tail, because the symbol of China is the dragon. So the people and citizens in China now are calling it the dragon's tail building. And here you can see it in relationship. This is the Empire State Building in New York. Just to give you a sense of the scale. Please.
How do you get material up there?
How do you get material up there?
To build it?
Yeah, to build it, there are cranes that move up with the construction of the tower. So it's called a crawler crane that goes up. As the steel goes up, it goes up with it.
Attached to the structure
Attached to the
itself.
structure.
So it's not coming from the ground. It's attached to the
There are
building.
internal atriums that are 100 stories in the air, and they grow their own
Scaffolding
food
on
up into the building.
of the building.
Some of the public
You wanna
spaces,
work on
the
it?
restaurants. Okay, the second thing I want to talk to you about is stewardship of the land. And again, think about Manhattan Beach and how you can create stewardship of the land. We're working on a project right now that's called the Global Seawater Project. So what did I tell you was one of the most scarce products out there right now besides water? Water, right?